So John Maynard Keynes, he was talking about, and here's where I see some real parallels, okay? After World War I, we had the Treaty of Versailles, and the Treaty of Versailles just terribly punished the Germans. It said, okay, you guys, we had World War I, and you guys did a lot of damage to a lot of countries, and you have to pay us back because you lost. And you have to pay us back what would today be trillions of dollars, and you have to do it quickly. And this is one of the reasons why Germany went into a hyperinflationary mode, because they had to pay it back in German marks rather than in gold. And so they said, okay, fine, we owe you 1 trillion marks. It's going to take 1 trillion marks to buy a loaf of bread. Here's a loaf of bread. I mean, that's a condensed version of the German hyperinflation. But in the process, that hyperinflation just devastated Germany. And the Germans were humiliated and devastated and economic, and this all in the midst of the Great Depression. And Hitler comes along and says, I will lead us out of this. And the Germans said, cool. Now, I would argue that Treaty of Versailles punishment of Germany during World War II is not that different from the way that we are treating right now Afghanistan, Iraq, Iran, Syria, Libya, basically throwing the region into economic chaos, which is what the Treaty of Versailles did, enforced by the threat of military action. And by the way, following the military action in World War I. So here's what John Maynard Keynes said about this. He said, the treaty includes no provision for the economic rehabilitation of Europe. This is, again, post-World War I. This is before World War II. This is we're talking 1933 here. The danger confronting us, John Maynard Keynes wrote in 1933, the danger confronting us is the rapid depression of the standard of life of the European populations to a point that will mean actual starvation for some. Now, remember, right now you got 4 to 5 million Iraqi refugees. You've got 3 million Afghan refugees. There's over 1 million Libyan refugees. We now have somewhere between 2 and 4 million Syrian refugees. He went on, John Maynard Keynes, in 1933, talking about Germany. When nobody thought Germany represented a threat, said, quote, people will not always die quietly. For starvation, which brings to some lethargy and a helpless despair, drives other temperaments to the nervous instability of hysteria and to a mad despair, and these, in their distress, may overturn the remnants of organization. Those who sign this treaty, he's again talking about the Treaty of Versailles, John Maynard Keynes, this wasn't in 33 he wrote it was back in the 20s as the treaty was being put together. Those who sign this treaty will sign the death sentence of many millions of German men, women, and children. It was just 3 months before FDR was sworn in as president that Hitler became the Chancellor of Germany. In February, he had burned down the Reichstag. Well, you know the whole story. I mean, I don't need to go through the whole thing. And now that cycle is being repeated in Europe. I mean, you got the Golden Dawn. I read about this in the crash of 2016. Greek right-wing extremists forging close contacts in Germany in an attempt to strengthen their power base in Europe, according to German officials. I mean, this whole thing, these cycles of history. I never have been one of these people who say, oh, let's look at this graph, and there's the Kondraki wave. That means that the stock market's going to go up 27 points next month. Let's invest in whatever. I've never been a chartist. That's what these people call themselves, who think that they can invest and predict things based on. But that said, there are these macro cycles of economic disaster and war that you cannot deny. And I believe we are in one of those, in the down point of one of those cycles right now. And I think that this point in time is probably not that much different from the mid-1930s, both with regard to Europe and with regard to the economy. I mean, FDR is putting things back together from 33 to 36. He cut unemployment almost in half. He cut it down to 15% from 30 some odd percent, more than in half. And then in 1937, when he was reelected, the Republicans were screaming, "Oh, you got to quit borrowing all this money." And so he said, "Okay, we'll dial back a little bit." And boom, unemployment started going back up again. And meanwhile, Hitler's marshaling his forces for his invasion of Poland. I see striking parallels, which in part is why I wrote this book, but also, because I just want to lay it all out. But also why I think it's so important that we say, let us not repeat those mistakes. Now, you could build an argument using the logic that I just shared with you, that had we bombed Hitler in 1938 or 39 when he invaded Poland, had we put a stop to him, that World War II would not have played out the way it did. It probably just would have been us and Tojo in Japan, and it might not have played out at all. And, I don't have a crystal ball or a time machine. Might be right. Does that mean that we should intervene with Assad? Is he the good guy or the bad guy? Because right now he's the secularist who is fighting against the Al-Qaeda folks who want to create a Muslim theocracy in Syria, much like is happening now in Iraq and has already happened in Iran. It's like, when you can't tell the good guys from the bad guys, you got a problem.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 866-987-THOM.
Sure, Assad is a terrible man. He's killed his own people. And the rebels cutting people's hearts out and eating them on television? Really?